Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, buenos dias, ni hao, no eskinum, aquaba, what up, though? This is the weekly meeting of our Wawiyam Kavidkihik, our Global Federation of Villages. I'm in the process of preparing notes in the agenda for the meeting. So the hour is 0:00. Oh, I got a little happy there. 00:16. Greenwich Mean Zone. On day número 19 of month uno of year 123 after the commencement of the Parliament of the World's Religions, year 70 after the founding of the United Nations, day 5 of the week, day 13 of the full moon, and this weekly meeting of our Wowium Kavit, our Global Federation of Villages, is called to order. We begin with a blessing. May all beings be well. We continue with the recitation of our mantra from the preamble of our compact. We, the sentient beings of our Wowium Kavit, our Global Federation of Villages, observe the antiquated institutions and systems facilitating convention, and we believe we can do better. We recognize the historic and contemporary harm we cause each other, and we are dedicated to do better. We are dedicated to reconciliation. The wisdom of our ancestors, prophets, and sages tells us we do better by exercising compassion towards each other and all life. This begins by fundamentally respecting all beings, all life, all phenomena. And this continues through enhancing the wellness of all beings and all life, steadfastly as universal citizens. We are better learning that when we do this, we also enhance our own respective individual wellness. Thus, we reconstruct our institutions and systems to be proficiently compassionate and transcendent. This includes our institutions and systems of religion, government, education, health, finance, commerce, socialization, and additionally, we fundamentally challenge previous precepts, theories, laws, and methodologies of selfishness. We declare a new age of compassion, and whilst our new institutions and systems supplant the antiquated institutions and systems, we facilitate this process with maximum peace, humility, stability, efficiency, and compassion. We practice well ethos, including ahimsa, ubuntu, veritas, haya, shu, makahuga, samadhi, shema, shubono, narap. The preceding text is provided for this purpose. Love and peace. And attendance. Peter Johansson OCC is on the books. And there's an absence of any official viewers on the Google Hangout session at the moment. There's an absence of any emergency or urgent propositions. So that brings us to the minutes from the previous meeting. The previous meeting is convened a week ago. It commences at 19:01 hour, Greenwich Mean Zone, on day 12 of month uno of year 123 after the commencement of the Parliament of World's Religions, year 70 after the founding of the United Nations, on day número 5 of the week and day número 6 of the full moon. Blessing is recited, mantra recited. For attendance, Peter Johansson OCC is on the books. Urgency propositions, there is an absence of any. The minutes are read, agenda is read. All business includes the diplomatic status based on the trust compact, pursuing the securing of such status for respective members of our villages and our Wowium Kavit. Also communication with Amnesty International offices and co-op offices regarding following up from the sharing of the trust compact, and also including the collective agenda that's included as new business within the previous meeting, within the meeting a week ago. Another item of old business includes fair trade for monks, just the continuing intention of following through with that. New business includes the collective agenda. So I basically describe what that is, basically an annual, a 1 year cycle, an uno year cycle agenda, with designated periods of uno quarter, of 3 months, where uno priority issue is identified with 5 highlighted issues and 10 continuing issues, through which our different villages, our different groups, congregations, communities, activist fronts additionally share intentionality and activity and message and communication about the uno issue, the priority issue for that period. And I describe different activities and things like that. So that's what's shared for new business. And then for local village briefs, I give an update regarding our UNI village, including the International Day of Peace, the developments with our vote of co-op, diplomatic status, as well as the residential co-op. So for announcements, I mentioned the past occurrences of Purnima Upasada, the International Day of Peace, and the autumn-spring equinox, as well as the then occurring experience of Elul within Judaism, Jumu'ah within Islam, Shabbat within Judaism, Sunday worship within Christianity, and feast within the Baha'i faith, which all occurred within the previous week. And then for benevolent news, I sing Shalom Aleichem from Judaism, as well as the Gayatri mantra from Hinduism, and the Peace Prayer song. The benediction is recited, and the meeting is concluded at 19:58 hour Greenwich Mean Zone. So that brings us to the agenda for this meeting. Actually, the intention is to keep it comparatively brief, although there are some very, very substantial considerations to share. On a side note, as I mentioned before, I'm expected to be occupied doing some other things for the next couple of weeks. This is a rather significant spiritual period within my spiritual practice. So I have certain obligations accordingly. So I'm less available to do some of the tasks and assignments for the next few weeks. So I'm just. So the brevity of this meeting, where I would otherwise like to go into further detail about some of these very substantial topics and issues, the intention is to be comparatively brief. So I just provide that as a side note. So the agenda includes, as old business, an update regarding consular immunity or diplomatic status and diplomatic immunity as it's described previously. Another item is social networking platform. There's a considerable update and development with that, and an update regarding the collective agenda communications, as referred to before, as well as the fair trade for monks. New business includes the fair trade vegan organic marketplace. I should say global fair trade vegan organic marketplace. And then an update or a sharing of some information regarding an initiative called MEGA, which is basically the Mixed Ethnicity Global Alliance. So that's what's on the agenda for this meeting. So with that being communicated, we can get into old business. So consular immunity. The update that I have to share with that is that I do complete a correspondence. I do forward the correspondence to the settler government of the United States, as well as the United Nations and some additional international entities, human rights organizations, intergovernmental organizations, global citizenship organizations, and additionally, it's a very brief correspondence, but it solicits consular immunity for myself personally, based upon the intrinsic sovereignty established through the Trust Compact itself, as practiced by our specific UNI village, and me being a signee, a citizen of our UNI village, as well as a participant of our WOWIM Kavivkihik, our Global Federation of Villages, and a signee onto the Trust Compact. So based upon all those factors, there is the solicitation for consular immunity for myself, as basically to continue to be in this residence for the moment, for the period, and to have recognition for that for a number of reasons, particularly to facilitate increasingly safe travel amidst the immediate vicinity and the extended area here, but also travel across the continent and internationally across national borders. So like I say, I'm abstaining from getting into it, but I do share the correspondence. I actually physically directly forward it to different government agencies, settler government agencies here in the Cuyahoga area. Those places, to be specific, I actually look for a consulate office or some appropriate federal agency base here in the Cuyahoga area. It's difficult for me to readily find that. I am aware of there being a Federal Reserve bank or institution here in the Cuyahoga area. Other than that, I'm unaware of there being an official, formidable, appropriate agency, particularly an extension of the State Department, to it, to which to provide the physical copy of the correspondence. So what I do is just go to the local post office. So that may seem rather inappropriate or whatever. However, there is the consideration that that is the same exact mechanism through which many of the passports are issued, and passport applications are processed. So there's a consideration of how the solicitation for consular immunity very much fits within a similar context of interaction with the State Department. So I provide that also. The consular immunity is predicated upon my existence as a citizen of Earth, other than a citizen of the United States, a citizen of Earth, and as well as a citizen of our UNI village. So there are a lot of implications. There's a lot of rationalization and explanation for this, but I'm just going to leave it at that. I drop one copy off at the post office. There's a little bit of some communicative dissonance in terms of like just obviously people at the office, the staff are unaccustomed to receiving such a solicitation, and so there's a little bit of an uncertainty on how to do it, and a solicitation for me to speak with a supervisor. However, admittedly, at that point, the hour was late. I just spent a lot of minutes putting it together, and so it was almost quitting time, and so on that day, and so I simply just put it in the mail. Because my intention is to continue on to the city hall of the local municipality here of Cleveland Heights to also physically directly distribute or provide the correspondence, which I am able to do. Actually, I arrived just as staff people are leaving the offices, and I deposit it with the executive assistant to the city manager of the city of Cleveland Heights. I also provide, as a side note, that the city of Cleveland Heights also does directly respond to a previous email correspondence, and I didn't do that this time. I abstained from sending it directly to Cleveland Heights, the city of Cleveland Heights, which is appropriate for me to address. So in a previous correspondence regarding our trust compact, a correspondence is sent to the city of Cleveland Heights, and the city of Cleveland Heights communicates its receipt and intention of processing it and considering the communication on that occasion. So I intend to forward the email correspondence to the city of Cleveland Heights again. Actually, my initial intention was to provide this as a response to that email that we received, but I'm just whatever, we go with it. So that's pretty much the update as it stands. So obviously it's very soon since then. There has yet to be a direct response accordingly, although I do receive a number of phone calls from unidentified or unfamiliar numbers since that period, and there's some additional interactions that occur since then, but in terms of direct response regarding specifically this solicitation for consular immunity, there has yet to be any. There are a few failed delivery notices for email addresses, including to the representative of the United States to the United Nations, even though the email address is listed on the website for that office. The email is returned back, and I think the State Department is, other than forthcoming and providing an email address for staff people or even a general email address. However, I do provide a truncated or a very abbreviated version of the correspondence on the, if I recall correctly, on the contact page of the website rather than as an email. So it abstains from having the attachment of the trust compact with it. Additionally, but there is reference to the UNI Village meeting wherein I discuss that the correspondence and recite it. So anyways, that's that. That's where it stands, and it's a work in progress. Next item of old business is social networking platforms. This is a big change as well. I mentioned previously that our William Kavik, our Global Federation of Villages, has yet to have a YouTube channel, particularly because of the language restrictions on YouTube, at least for the English based application that I have access to at the moment, or that's increasingly readily accessible. But anyways, the thing with YouTube is that it tries. I think it seems to require a Google account, and Google seems to require for people's names, actual person's name rather than the name of an organization. And it seems Google has a different service for organizations, and I'm not certain if there's a fee or whatever. I remember attempting to pursue an account on that manner, and it was a little bit convoluted and inconvenient. So I simply continue in the way that with which I am previously familiar. So anyway, we have yet to have a William Kavik YouTube account. However, we do have. I mentioned we do have a Facebook account, a group page, with very extremely modest activity. And I also established a group page on a new social networking platform on Spruce, which is a conglomerate platform that includes additional groups and initiatives within which I'm personally involved, including UNI Village and the Sun Ashram, and additionally. However, that being said, I do make contact. I do post there, even with our Wobium Kavik. However, I abstain from sending out. I send out one invitation for membership. Uno invitation, but other than that, I abstain from promoting it substantially, and but I do establish a foundation of content regularly throughout the past few weeks. However, that being said, at this point, amidst some additional developments regarding some additional endeavors I'm involved with, I actually established another account with Ning, which is a platform that I consider previously, and I mentioned in previous meetings about basically deciding between Ning and Spruce. I go with Spruce at the moment because of its affordability and because it provides the appropriate services that are within our requisites or our requirements for our Wobium Kavik and the additional endeavors within which I'm involved. However, amidst the recent developments, which involve an increasingly involved kind of social network activity, there is that warrants the services that are readily provided by Ning and recognized at Ning compared to Spruce. So I do start an account with Ning. It is called Plurity, and so the Soul I Dare to Be account or platform, which is on Spruce, is intended to be included within Plurity as one of the kind of like the groups and all the endeavors that I have with that, doing that, and then another channel or group within Plurity is the additional endeavors with that. So that is what's happening at the moment. So there's a huge amount of work to be done in terms of developing the platform, developing the formatting and the logistics, as well as with the Plurity approach, like how membership is established and everything else, because there is an economic factor in it as well. And so so those details, there's a requirement for those details to be determined per the discernment of those involved with Plurity, and then our Wobium Kavik is established within it throughout. So the intention is, as the platform builds, God willing, to continue doing what I do previously at Spruce with our Wobium Kavik with in terms of posting the videos and starting to build the content and the foundation there. The intentionality is to continue doing that just on the Ning platform as a part of the Plurity platform. So again, it's a huge thing. There's a lot of work to be done, but there's a considerable amount of promise with that as well. So I just shared that accordingly without going into detail, particularly in this instance, because a lot of the details have yet to be still have to be confirmed. So there's that. Next item of old business is fair trade for monks. Again, that's kind of on the back burner at the moment. I have yet to send out that correspondence. Oh, excuse me. The next item is actually collective agenda communications. Excuse me. So regarding collective agenda communications, I have yet to send that out, and I mentioned the intention of doing so within the next week before this meeting. To be honest, actually, I do consider it, even amidst my very minimal availability. I do consider making the phone calls. However, these are international calls, which require money for the most part, and so and actually. To be honest, my personal finances are extremely minimal or extremely modest, and there's a recent some challenges within my bank account regarding some penalties and other things that happen. I have some interesting conversations on the phone today, challenging conversations on the phone today, and so that being said, the point is I'm without the financing immediately available to do the international calls. So even amidst some availability to do so, I'm without the financing to do that. So that's tabled at the moment. And then for the next week or so, I'm pretty much occupied for the next couple of weeks. So there may be some availability. I may be able to do it. I'm interested in doing it, but it's difficult to even think about it at this moment because international calls are different than emails. It's involved. It requires a certain, even if when it's not it's other than face to face. It requires a considerable amount of diplomacy and mindfulness, particularly when calling somebody in another country that speaks another language, even when being English proficient. But anyways, so it's an involved thing, and it warrants due mindfulness and preparation. And even when it's just a minute, those minutes, still, particularly when it's like a dozen or a couple dozen calls, which when doing this is appropriate to be able to do it and talk to everybody on the list as expediently as possible, just to complete it. So it's an involved thing. So like I said, it's difficult to even think about it, to like block out a number of hours to do it. Again, and also dealing with people on different time zones and everything else. It involves staying up late or getting up early or whatever else. So anyways, like I said, it's difficult to even think about, for me to think about doing it at this moment, even for the next couple of weeks. So I just put that out there. So it has yet to be done. There's the intention of doing it eventually at some point, soon after the next couple of weeks or so. God willing. So there's that. Next item is fair trade for monks. Again, that's another thing. It's less involved compared to those international telephone calls, but there is some preparation involved in terms of identifying the monasteries in our respective locations, finding the contact information, as well as references to fair trade opportunities in each of these locations. So it does require some legwork beforehand, and so again, it's difficult to even think about when may be an opportunity to do that. So for the next couple of weeks, that's on the back burner as well. So those are the items of old business at the moment. New items or items of new business include Global Fair Trade Vegan Organic Marketplace. So I already mentioned before Votive Co-op, our fair trade vegan organic co-op here in our Cuyahoga area, which is a very extremely modest endeavor, just getting off the ground. Still, I mean, you see the inventory. So that's what we're working with at the moment. But we do have some wholesale accounts. We do have some connections and interactions with international and regional wholesalers, fair trade, as well as retailers. And establish vegan products or require vegan and substantially most often organic products as well, even kosher and halal products. So anyways, that's our Votive Co-op, and we're progressing with that. As we progress, it becomes increasingly apparent and evident and obvious that much of the success and the proficiency of our Votive Co-op seems to be intrinsically involved in the enhancement of the global fair trade, vegan, organic, kosher, halal infrastructure, meaning networks of suppliers, cultivators, distributors, retailers, and additionally, and the likes of which are extremely modest globally. There are some spots like within the UK and some parts of Europe that are increased where there are additional fair trade options, but distribution issues for people here on Turtle Island and additionally are challenging. So there are fewer options here. There are some options here on Turtle Island. However, it's very modest, and so uh, so the idea is enhancing this infrastructure, which again obviously is a huge task. Even though there's ways of doing it and growing it, the scalable progression, but um, as we put in this work for our votive co-op, there's a consideration that much of the legwork that we're putting in to get ourselves off the ground, if we extend ourselves a little bit further, and work towards cooperating with other loved ones who are similarly inclined, who have similar interests and similar commitments and interests, or uh, um, uh, inclination, for lack of a better word, then we can work. We can make some considerable strides, God willing, to considerably enhance the global infrastructure, suppliers. So the idea of the marketplace is even just doing something like a. I hesitate in sharing or naming the website, but something like an Alibaba, but fair trade, vegan, organic, and kosher halal, where people can go to it and find distributors, wholesalers, retailers, and product offerings, and with comparative ease, and have these delivered to where people are with comparative ease. Alibaba tends to work in large bulk amounts, although there are some options. And to be honest, amidst the modest amount of research and I do into Alibaba, it is a little bit cumbersome. There's a whole lot of information. Apparently, I mean, people do make deals through it. Obviously, it seems to be very popular. However, um, the vetting process, getting reassurances, there, and Alibaba does have some um, certain procedures involved in that, certain protocols and things like that. But when it comes to fair trade, there are even further concerns about how genuinely fair trade is it, who's verifying the fair trade, how recent is that verification, how further does it extend into all the ingredients in a product, and the processing of that product, the distribution, the materials of the distribution, and additionally. So there are additional concerns and involvement in establishing a fair trade, vegan, organic, kosher, halal marketplace. Um, but that's the idea. That's the idea with this global fair trade, vegan, organic, kosher, halal marketplace, and uh, working with friends, with family members, loved ones, to build that. So it's something that's still in the very early developmental stages, and so there have yet to be details. But I share this accordingly, to be mindful of it. So I'm gonna keep it at that. Next item of new business is MEGA, the Mixed Ethnicity Global Alliance. So basically, I'm involved with some friends and loved ones in a basically a kind of a consortium initiative of people who are of mixed race, who are where there are challenges regarding identity as individuals, but also that translates to challenges politically, economically, even spiritually, religiously, and socially. And so there is an there's a movement, a mixed movement globally. There's a considerable concentration here on Turtle Island, but there are places all throughout the earth. There are mixed people, and so effectively. So the idea with this mixed ethnicity global alliance is kind of bringing our different collectives together and sharing some purpose and some advocacy and awareness and engagement at the international level with international institutions like the United Nations and additionally. And so one initiative that is in motion is establishing a global census of mixed people, just to get the numbers and the facts about the conditions of mixed people as a very basic platform from which to build advocacy and outreach and addressing the needs, the general needs, as often they're mixed people who are very comfortable and very immersed within convention and status quo, but there are also a lot of mixed people who are marginalized, particularly for being mixed. And additionally, so it's a matter of providing due advocacy for people along these lines, much like the advocacy for refugees and for even Native people, and additionally recognizing that each of these has distinct issues and has a distinct nature, but there are strong similarities in terms of the institutional the history of institutional disenfranchisement of mixed people. For instance, here in settler society on Turtle Island, it is only recently, very recently within history, within the past generation, it is illegal. It is illegal in many parts of the society for people of different ethnicities to marry each other, and so just therein is extreme considerable persecution. And all those conditions that I mentioned, all those challenges that I mentioned about political, economic, spiritual, religious, social, and additional challenges. So, and that's here in what refers to itself as the bastion of diversity, and additionally, only on this land. That's within the past generation, and so there's a consideration of how the de jure xenophobia translates into and is derived from de facto. Which one's which? Either way, the doctrinal xenophobia is enveloped amidst the ideological xenophobia, and it translates into challenging conditions. And even amongst people who are assimilated and comfortable in society and status quo, often at the cost of repressing ethnic identity, ethnic cultural heritage, even beliefs, practices, and additionally. So anyways, it's a thing, and we are doing something about it. One, like I mentioned, is the intention of doing this, establishing this UN sanctioned global census, recognizing being mixed as a thing, and a thing worthy of advocacy, and conducting the census to find additional information about this thing. That's one consideration. The other consideration is establishing a UN declaration on the rights of mixed people. So those are two things that are in the works. Recently, there's a suggestion that is shared to approach the UN is a big step. It's a necessary step, but it may be beneficial to make it a gradual step. So the suggestion that is recently made is doing an intermediate approach towards continental or international government organizations like the European Union, like the African Union, and additionally, and solicit these international institutions, intergovernmental institutions, for a seat at the table as an observer mission, as an institution with a consultative status or something like that. Those are terms that are utilized for institutions with the United Nations. So, doing something similar like that with each of these political or these intergovernmental institutions. To get a seat at the table, to get involved, to be visible, to share the message, share awareness, and establish a precedent of engagement and legitimacy at the international level, and gradually building towards additional things. So, anyways, that's the thing, and there's intrinsic interconnectivity. Particularly as it involves engagement with these intergovernmental agencies or institutions. So I share that just basically kind of like as an FYI for our William Kavik, because it is something that I am intrinsically involved in. It is something that's connected within the network and circle of my endeavors and the endeavors of loved ones around me, which means that it's intrinsically connected even beyond myself. It is intrinsically connected with our William Kavik, because within each of our locations there are mixed people, and it's other than just there being mixed people, but mixed people as a result of the interaction between civilizations and nations and ethnicities and religions, which is an intrinsic part of this endeavor as well. I'm saying, as some mixed people do, about advocating or promoting everybody becoming mixed or whatever. That's other than the agenda of the official agenda of Mega. But there is intrinsic amidst the notion of globalization, diversity, pluralism, and even cosmopolitanism, all of which are involved within our William Kavik. These are all intrinsic experiences and very basic fundamental experiences within the mixed experience as well. Even that's, some mixed people argue with that, but it's part of the intrinsic experience of being mixed. And so there are intrinsic synergies between these different endeavors. So I share that accordingly. So that's that. That's old business. That's new business. That takes us to local village briefs. So for UNI Village, some of the things that occur in the past week. Again, the consular immunity is a considerable occurrence this past week, and just like the process involved in putting that together, and then gradually experiencing the response, particularly through the ether, about that. So that's one thing. Village experience actually it's been kind of quiet, but amidst the quiet, there's actually an increased amount of receptivity and engagement, recognition, and communication. So that's positive. I actually also visit another area within our UNI Village, and hang out there for a little bit, and get a feel for our neighbors over there. So that's beneficial, and so it's coming together gradually, surely, with due modesty, and mutual respect and compassion and harmony. So there are positives with that. Our vote of COV is continuing, and we are working towards bringing on some additional help, and sharing the load, and finding some brokers to do it. Again, just as it is the case with William Kavik, I am precluded from providing a considerable amount of hours of service for the next couple of weeks. So that's happening. Oh, one thing that we are planning is a feast, a fair trade feast, within the next couple of weeks, just to provide a small number of loved ones with a sampling of some of the products that we have in our votive co-op inventory. So one of our friends at Level Ground, which is a fair trade supplier, based in Canada, in the land of the Okanagan, Vancouver, she recommends giving samples to people, and that being a way of encouraging people. People seem to be responsive to samples, and it gives a tangibility to it, some assurance, some credibility, and encouragement. So that's a big thought behind this fair trade feast, planning in the next couple of weeks. So that's what's happening with Votive. And then I mentioned in the village experience there being a general improvement in the experience and the congeniality amongst the neighbors here and the villagers here. And amidst that, there are some tests in the street lingo here. People, the word we utilized decades ago is being tried. Somebody tries somebody, seeing what people can get away with. And so I'm observing certain overtures of being tried by different people, even people that are close to me, even people that are very close to me. So again, it's just a matter of being aware of what's in the ether, what we put out into the ether, and what we can expect in return in the ether. What we can expect in the terms of positive as well as challenges, and even just in also recognizing those challenges as simply opportunities and even obligations for transformation. So it's other than being antagonistic. It's simply a matter of understanding how to navigate the puzzle. So being tried is one of those ways, one of those processes. So that's happening. So amidst the congeniality, amidst the beneficial improvements, there are some challenges as well. That's part of life. So that continues. That's what's up with our UNI village. So that's local village briefs. That brings us to announcements. So actually, yeah, yesterday there is feast within the Baha'i faith. Yeah, yesterday. So that is Tuesday. That happens yesterday. Today we are in the midst of Elul, continuing within Judaism. Mañana is Juma within Islam, as well. The week's end brings the observance of Navratri within Hinduism, as well as presumably Amavasya within Hinduism, as it's the beginning of the new month or the new moon. But I'm uncertain if Navratri kind of trumps Amavasya, so that is just Navratri, or if it is appropriate to say Navratri or Amavasya. That's my own modest awareness or solicitation for information or lesson. That also coincides with Upasada within Buddhism, the observance of the new moon. And there is Shabbat within Judaism, and Sunday worship within Christianity. And in about 5 days, 4 or 5 days, depending where we are on the universe or on Earth, is the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. So this is one of the high holy days within Judaism. So that's a big thing. And similarly with Rosh Hashanah, it is technically Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the new month, the new moon. However, people just tend to refer to it as Rosh Hashanah. That's the custom. And then so later on next week is Gandhi's birthday. So that's what's happening with announcements. Diwali also, just for people's information, Diwali is approaching as well. Oh, I also should mention Navratri is also observed by additional religious practitioners outside of Hinduism as well, including Jainism. And additionally, it is something that is observed throughout the Indian subcontinent. So I share that accordingly. So that is announcements. That brings us to benevolent news. So for benevolent news, I have on the docket, based on a week ago, those songs, Nobody Knows, which is a spiritual song from the legacy, the heritage of African enslavement here on Turtle Island. Also referred to as a sorrow song, which are the roots of gospel music here from Turtle Island. And then the other song is Sancta Lucia, which is a Scandinavian song, Swedish, Svensk, that is performed, that is sung during the observance of the event of Sancta Lucia, which occurs a little bit before Christmas within Scandinavia, and in additional cultures and nations as well. Then also including, as I regularly do in our meetings, the peace prayer song. However, I'm also adding something else to the mix today, which is Welt Ethos chant. I recite the Welt Ethos, the list of principles included within Welt Ethos, as according to the rendering of Asana Ashram in the preamble that I recited at the beginning of this meeting. So my intention is to give a little chant as a way of facilitating memory of the different principles. And so before I give the chant, I intend to again recite each principle and explain again the language and the tradition from which it's derived, as well as the meaning of the word, and how it fits within our rendering of Asana Ashram's rendering of Welt Ethos. I intend to do that before the peace prayer song. So That's what we got going on. So let's get into it. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Sancta Lucia, let's glad hagrin, sprideva vitanar, glas av den fagrin, dromem en vigdesu, under osia, tendina vitas lu, Sancta Lucia, dromem et vigdesu, under osia, tendina vitas lu, Sancta Lucia. So those are the first two songs. The third one is the Walt Ethos chant. Walt Ethos includes Ahimsa, Ubuntu, Veritas, Haya, Shu, Maka, Huga, Samadhi, Shema, Shabono, Narap. 11 principles. Uno by uno, uno para uno. Numero uno, Ahimsa is Sanskrit from Hinduism, meaning abstinence from violence, peace. Numero dos, Ubuntu is Zulu from Africa, meaning I am because you are. And we say that to signify social justice, taking care of each other, providing for each other. Numero tres, Veritas is Latin from Greco-Roman tradition, meaning truth. And we describe this to mean honesty, being truthful. Numero cuatro is Haya, which is Arabic from Islam, meaning modesty, particularly within sexual ethics, sexual interaction, but throughout our endeavors, modesty. Numero cinco is Shu, which is Chinese from the Chinese tradition, as communicated by Confucius, meaning reciprocity. We use this to signify golden rule, doing unto others as we would have others do unto us, to abstain from doing unto others what we would have others abstain from doing unto us. Numero seis is Maka, which is from the Lakota tradition, the indigenous here of Turtle Island, the natives of Turtle Island here, which means, which is part of the term of Inamaka, Mother Earth. So Maka means earth, and we use this to signify environmentalism, caring for the environment, caring for nature, harmony with nature. Siete is Huga, which is Dansk, Scandinavian, which means cozy. We use this to signify family togetherness, the importance of family. Ocho is Samadhi, which is Pali derived from Sanskrit, which means Pali within Buddhism, which means meditation, mindfulness. We use this to signify taking a time out, whether that's meditation, whether that's prayer, whether that's reflection, sitting in silence, communing with nature. It's taking a time out from the daily grind and putting things in perspective. Número cuatro is Shema. Literally, it's Hebrew from Judaism. Literally, this translates into listen or hear. It is the term that's utilized for a very fundamental prayer within Judaism and a proclamation regarding the oneness of God. We use this to signify that oneness of the ultimate reality, the universe, and how we are all part of this singularity, and thus have a higher purpose. That's Shema. Yes, is Shabono. So Shabono is a term from the Yanomami people, natives of the southwestern quadrant, often referred to as the Amazon. Shabono is actually literally a community hut, wherein a tribe of a Yanomami tribe lives and sleeps. It is also where decisions are made. We use this to signify consensus, because it is through consensus that Yanomami make decisions amongst the community in the tribal hut of a Shabono. And numero once is Narap. Narap is a term from the Wurundjeri people. The Wurundjeri people are aboriginals from within Oceania, the area often referred to as Oceania. This term means literally land or territory, and we utilize this to signify rightful stewardship, without force, without violence, rightful stewardship of land and material provisions. So that's Narap. Those are the Onse principles of Osona Ashram's rendering of Welt ethos. So that being communicated, here is the chant as a way of kind of remembering it, at least remembering the terms, so that it can be increasingly mindful. There are a number of exercises and tools that I use to kind of help the memory, but I'm just going to share this chant accordingly. It's very simple. It's just a recitation of each of these principles. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. Ahimsa Ubuntu Veritas Hayam Shumako Huga Samadhi Shema. Shabono Narap. So that is the Welt ethos chant. And we continue on to the peace prayer song. The same one I sang before a week ago in previous weeks. Salam Shalom Wolokota Shanti Hewa Mir Paz Wabinamani. May peace prevail throughout the earth, for now and evermore. May our children grow up safely in a world without any war. A part of what makes a pole for peace, it stands up tall for our release. A world of kindness and unity, a part of what makes a pole for peace. Salam Shalom Wolokota Shanti Hewa Mir Paz wa bin amani. We will all dance and celebrate with every nation and race, and together we will all create a world of beauty and grace. A part of what makes a pull for peace, it stands up tall for our release. A world of kindness and unity, a part of what makes a pull for peace. Salam Shalom, Wolakote Shanti, Hewa Mir Paz, Wa Benamani. Salam Shalom, Wolakote Shanti, Hewa Mir Paz, Wa Benamani. May peace prevail upon earth. So that brings us to our benediction. May all beings be well. And with that, the hour is 01:12, Greenwich Mean Zone. And this weekly meeting of our Wowium Kavidkahik, our Global Federation of Villages, is adjourned. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, adios, zaiden, one, asumodwo. Love and peace.